3 American B-2 Spirit stealth bombers crossed into Iranian airspace at exactly 2:47 a.m. 30 seconds later, 14 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, each weighing 30,000 pounds, slammed in NATO reinforced underground bunkers buried 200 feet beneath the Fordo nuclear facility. The explosion registered 4.1 on the Richter scale. The shockwave shattered windows 40 miles away in calm. And in Washington, D.C., a single sentence appeared on every major network simultaneously. U.S. forces have struck Iran. The world stopped. This wasn't a warning. It wasn't a diplomatic signal. It was the most significant unilateral American military action since the invasion of Iraq, executed in 27 minutes with 0 American casualties and a precision that sent one unmistakable message to every adversary on the planet. The United States has the capability, the will, and the weapons to reach you anywhere, at any time, without warning. What you're about to hear is the full tactical story. From the intelligence that triggered the strike, to the weapons that executed it, to the global shockwaves still reverberating right now. Support the channel by giving this video a thumbs up if this kind of deep tactical breakdown is what you come here for. For years, Iran had been playing a dangerous game, enriching uranium to 84% purity, a single technical step from weapons grade, spinning 9,000 advanced IR-6 centrifuges at the Natanz facility, constructing a second hardened enrichment hall beneath the Fordo mountain, 300 feet of granite and reinforced concrete between their program and the outside world. Iranian state media had declared it invulnerable. General Mohammad Bagheri, Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, said publicly in February that Fordo was beyond the reach of any military power. He said that on a Tuesday. By the following Sunday, Fordo was rubble. The strike didn't happen in isolation. Intelligence agencies had been tracking accelerating Iranian activity for 6 months. Satellite imagery from NRO assets showed construction crews working around the clock at Fordo, expanding the underground network, reinforcing blast doors, installing additional air filtration systems that suggested preparation for sustained underground operations. The National Security Agency intercepted communications between Iranian nuclear scientists discussing final assembly timelines. CIA human intelligence assets reported that enriched uranium stockpiles had been moved from above-ground storage into the mountain facility, a move consistent with protecting material for one specific purpose. The clock was not ticking. It had already run out. At the Pentagon, planners had been wargaming this scenario since 2021. 3 distinct strike packages existed in the CENTCOM operational vault. Package Alpha targeted only Natanz. Package Bravo targeted Natanz and Fordo simultaneously. Package Charlie, the most aggressive option, long considered too escalatory, targeted Natanz, Fordo, the Arak heavy water facility, and the Isfahan uranium conversion complex. All 4 at once. Complete decapitation of the Iranian nuclear program in a single operational window. What's your read on the decision? Type A if you think they should have gone with Package Bravo only. 2 sites, limited escalation. Type B if Package Charlie was the right call. Total destruction, full program elimination. Drop it in the comments. The President authorized Package Bravo at 6:12 p.m. Eastern Time on a Friday, 7 hours and 35 minutes before the first bomb fell. 2 B-2 Spirits launched from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. A third launched from Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Each aircraft carried 2 GBU-57A/B massive ordnance penetrators, the largest non-nuclear bomb in the American arsenal. 30,000 pounds of steel, explosives, and engineering precision. The weapon was specifically designed to defeat hardened underground facilities. It penetrates through 200 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating. Not at the surface, not at the entrance, inside, where the equipment lives, where the centrifuges spin, where the scientists work. Iran's air defense network is not trivial. The S-300PMU-2 system, delivered by Russia, covers Tehran and strategic sites with a detection range of 250 miles and engagement range of 125 miles. The Bavar 373, Iran's domestically developed system, had been publicly claimed as equivalent to the S-400. Radar stations dot the Zagros Mountains. Iran's Air Defense Command had been on elevated alert since increased tensions in the Strait of Hormuz 72 hours earlier. None of it mattered. The B-2 has a radar cross-section of 0.1 square meters, roughly the size of a large bird. Flying at 50,000 feet, throttled back to reduce infrared signature with electronic warfare systems actively jamming radar frequencies, the three aircraft were effectively invisible. Iranian radar operators saw nothing. Their tracking systems showed empty sky. The S-300 batteries never received a targeting solution. The Bavar 373 fire control radars swept clean airspace. At 2:47 a.m. local time, the first MOP released from 45,000 feet. It fell in near silence, its GPS guidance system making micro-adjustments throughout the 90-second descent. It impacted the access shaft of the Fordow Enrichment Hall at a velocity of 1,400 feet per second, penetrated 180 feet of earth and reinforced concrete, and detonated with a blast yield equivalent to 5,300 pounds of TNT, focused, channeled, and directed entirely inward and downward. 11 seconds later, the second bomb hit the same facility, a 15-meter offset from the first impact point, designed to collapse the cavity created by the first detonation and eliminate any structural possibility of rebuilding on the same footprint. It was a technique refined from the Israeli strikes on Syrian reactors, executed with American precision and American payload. Simultaneously, 1,200 miles away, two additional MOPs detonated inside the Natanz enrichment complex. The above-ground portion of Natanz had already been struck in previous years by Stuxnet and physical sabotage. What remained was the A8 underground hall, 24 feet of reinforced concrete overhead, 50 feet underground, believed by Iranian engineers to be impenetrable. The GBU-57 penetrated it in 1.8 seconds. The entire kinetic phase of the operation lasted 27 minutes from first impact to last detonation. Don't miss what comes next in this breakdown. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an analysis like this one. Iran's response was immediate, chaotic, and revealing. State television went dark for 14 minutes. When broadcast resumed, a senior Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officer appeared on screen, visibly shaken, uniform jacket askew, reading from a prepared statement that described the strikes as a declaration of war and promised a response that will shake the foundations of the aggressor. The words were strong. The body language told a different story. In the Strait of Hormuz, 3 IRGC fast attack vessels moved to intercept the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which had repositioned to the North Arabian Sea 48 hours before the strikes, as if anticipating exactly this response. The carrier group's Aegis-equipped destroyers, USS Gravely and USS Cole, tracked the incoming small craft at ranges of 22 miles. The FA-18E Super Hornets on the Lincoln's deck were already armed, fueled, and staged on the catapults. Air Wing 7 had 24 aircraft airborne within 6 minutes. The IRGC boats broke off at 8 nautical miles. They turned around and returned to Bandar Abbas. In Lebanon, Hezbollah fired 34 rockets into northern Israel, a retaliatory gesture on Iran's behalf that killed no one and destroyed nothing. Israel's Iron Dome intercepted 31 of them. The other 3 landed in open fields. Hezbollah's leadership issued statements. Israel's Air Force was already targeting the launch sites. In Yemen, Houthi forces attempted to launch 4 anti-ship ballistic missiles at commercial shipping in the Red Sea, the same harassment campaign they had been running for months. 3 were intercepted by the USS Carney using the SM-3 Block IIA interceptor, a $30 million missile, killing a $2 million threat. Expensive, effective, and a daily demonstration that American naval power can sustain that cost indefinitely, while adversaries cannot. What would you have done in that moment when the IRGC fast attack boats were closing at 40 knots? Engage immediately at 22 miles or hold fire and let them come to 5 miles. Comment your answer below. There's no wrong answer here, and the tactical debate is real. The geopolitical shockwave hit harder than any missile. In Moscow, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov issued a statement condemning the strikes as a gross violation of international law and the UN Charter, which was noted internationally as a remarkable claim from a country conducting daily airstrikes against Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. Russia's condemnation carried the weight it deserved. China's foreign ministry called for restraint from all parties, diplomatic language that everyone understood as Beijing watching, calculating, and updating its own Taiwan timelines. In Riyadh, the Saudi Crown Prince made no public statement. Privately, Saudi intelligence chief Prince Khalid bin Bandar flew to Washington within 36 hours, not to protest, but to coordinate. The Gulf states had watched Iran's nuclear program with more dread than Washington. The strikes were, for them, a long-delayed solution to a threat they lacked the independent capability to address. In Tel Aviv, the response was silence, the particular silence of a country that has wanted this outcome for 2 decades and is wise enough not to say so publicly. The technical assessment of the strikes took weeks to complete. Preliminary analysis based on seismic data, satellite imagery, and signals intelligence suggested that the Fordow enrichment hall had sustained catastrophic structural damage. Estimated 85 to 95% destruction of the centrifuge arrays. The Natanz A8 hull damage assessment came in lower, 60 to 70% destruction, with significant sections of the facility remaining structurally intact, but with major equipment loss. 3 additional secondary facilities, a centrifuge manufacturing plant at Karaj, and 2 research facilities in Isfahan, were struck in a second wave by Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from USS Florida, an Ohio-class submarine operating submerged in the Gulf of Oman. The submarine fired 12 TLAMs in a 4-minute window. The strike package cost approximately $1.8 billion to execute. The Iranian nuclear program it targeted had cost an estimated $50 to $60 billion to build over 2 decades. If you're enjoying this deep dive into modern warfare, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. This kind of research takes serious time, and your support makes it possible. The aftermath exposed every vulnerability in Iran's strategic position simultaneously. The IRGC's conventional deterrence, the threat of asymmetric retaliation, of closing the strait, of activating proxy networks across the region, had been the implicit guarantee behind Iran's nuclear brinkmanship. The calculation was always, attack our program and we will make you pay a price too high to accept. It was a reasonable deterrence theory. It failed because the price Iran imposed was not high enough. Fast attack boats turned back, Hezbollah rockets intercepted, Houthi missiles shot down. The Strait of Hormuz remained open. Oil prices spiked $12 per barrel on the morning of the strikes and recovered within 72 hours. Iran had promised consequences that shook the earth. What arrived were consequences that the United States Navy stopped before they landed. The deeper lesson was tactical, not political. The B-2 Spirit had proven something that defense analysts had debated for 20 years. True stealth, executed correctly, at the right altitude, with proper emissions control, against even a sophisticated integrated air defense network, produces results indistinguishable from invisibility. The Iranians did not know the aircraft were overhead until the bombs were already in the ground. They had no opportunity to scramble interceptors, no opportunity to disperse assets, no opportunity to change the outcome. The weapon struck at the moment of maximum surprise because maximum surprise had been maintained through 6,800 miles of flight. The GBU-57 itself, the massive ordnance penetrator, developed at a cost of $330 million over 10 years specifically for scenarios like this, performed at the upper bound of its specifications. The penetration depth at Fordow exceeded the 200-foot design target. The post-detonation collapse achieved total denial of the facility, meaning not only was the equipment destroyed, but rebuilding on the same footprint would require complete excavation of the collapsed underground structure, a 5 to 7 year project minimum, assuming anyone was willing to fund it. Iran's nuclear program had not been set back 2 years, as optimistic intelligence estimates had suggested was achievable. Preliminary assessment suggested a setback of 8 to 12 years, placing any Iranian weapons capability beyond the current generation of leadership into a future where political conditions, sanctions, economic pressure, and internal dynamics might combine to permanently close the door. Nothing about modern warfare is ever clean. Nothing is ever finished. The region remains volatile. Iran's enrichment capability, while massively degraded, was not eliminated in totality. Dispersed facilities exist. Knowledge cannot be bombed. Scientists survive. The underlying political conditions that drove Iran to pursue a nuclear program in the first place, security concerns, regional competition, domestic political dynamics, those remain unchanged. But something else changed. Something harder to measure than centrifuge counts and megatonnage. The assumption held by adversaries for a generation that American restraint was permanent, that red lines were suggestions, that the United States would absorb provocation rather than act, that assumption was destroyed more completely than any building in Fordow. Was this strike a strategic masterstroke that set back Iranian nuclear ambitions for a decade, or a short-term tactical win that will accelerate proliferation pressure across the Middle East? Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is exactly the kind of debate worth having. The history of great powers is written in moments. Moments when they act or fail to act. Moments when capability meets will. The United States has always had the capability. The question that adversaries ask, the question that deterrence is built on, is whether the will is present when the moment demands it. That question was answered at 2:47 a.m. over the mountains of central Iran. To every nation watching from Moscow to Beijing to Pyongyang, the mathematics of modern warfare have been demonstrated in real time. Stealth is real. Penetrating munitions are real. The reach of American power is real. The age of believing that distance, depth, and defiance provide protection from consequences. That age ended with the sound of 14 bombs detonating 200 feet underground. Freedom is not kept by hoping adversaries choose peace. It is kept by ensuring they understand the cost of choosing war. If you made it this far, you're the core of this community. The people who want to understand how modern warfare actually works, not just the headlines. Like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell. We're building something real here, and your support is what makes the next deep dive possible.